Yeah, no, being Pepper has been a pretty cool thing for the last two.
And it's already 3/4 full.
I would say maybe I would prefer questions. I don't have that much.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
I can do that. I'm surprised to see you in your monologue. But that's fine. That's fine. That's good. But what you were doing was just talking about how you got started.
Just the monsters in general. And the thing was the 50 years of monsters in the movies.
Right.
Happened to be at the studio that kind of was synonymous with making monster movies.
And maybe I'm backtracking because you may have said this, but I mean, you started acting at what age?
7,
And you got the Eddie role at
11.
4 years of no acting. Must have been a drag.
Actually, I did a year in General Hospital, a year in Real McCoy's prior to that. Yeah, at the time I wasn't even living in Hollywood. They kind of flew me in for the last minute thing with Yvonne DiCarlo. And we only were on for 2 years, but it's had a lot of staying power.
I was going to say, for something that brief in the grand scheme of TV spans, the effect it had and continues to have, is just kind of a mess. Did you ever think that this would have that kind of shelf life?
No, back then syndication didn't exist. You would just do new shows every year and they would fall by the wayside. So no one foresaw anything like this, no, that's for sure.
And Naomi, we're just starting to talk about how you got into this. Can I ask you first about the casting situation with the show?
Sure.
What made them think you're the one to play Pepper?
Well, I asked myself the same thing. In the morning, I look in the mirror. I don't see it. No.
And actually, if anybody's seen pictures of her not as Pepper, you're a beautiful lady.
Well, I don't look like Pepper now, do I?
No, you don't.
Okay.
No, but I mean,
I did take the
you
red
have
eye.
Pepper-esque elements
Oh, okay.
to your hair.
I've been on 3 coasts in the last 2 days, so I'm a little Pepper-esque. But the casting process, I don't know, other than, it's obviously a big character, and that's what I do. So it's obviously, physically, there's no real resemblance, thank God, but, they did need someone petite, and someone not claustrophobic, and someone willing to shave her head, and I fit all those things. I know, when they first called me up for the actual audition, it was me and a bunch of little people. And I thought, I am small, but there's a difference between little and small. And so I thought maybe I had to have a conversation with my agent. As it turns out, the actual audition was just, they had me actually do a monologue of Jessica Lange's from season 1.
The squirrel one?
Which monologue? What?
Was it the one about the squirrel?
No, it was not a squirrel monologue.
She did a great monologue about a squirrel.
She does a lot of monologues.
Well, I had a buddy who actually, who was a huge fan of the show, and he showed me this monologue about the squirrel. And then he's like, and that squirrel's name was Emmy.
That's funny. In any case, basically, I didn't actually know what the role was at all when I was auditioning for it, because I was doing this, like I said, monologue that had already been aired, and then of course they gave me a ball and they said, try to get us to play with you. So again, now we kind of know from Pepper, oh, okay, they're trying to see her range, right? They want to see that she has this playful, whimsical, youthful, childlike side, and then they want to see that she can act. She can be an adult and deliver dialogue. So that's what they got. It wasn't until actually after that audition that I met with the makeup people, and that's when they actually took a bunch of photos of me and manipulated them to see what I would look like as Pepper. Again, I'm totally in the dark. They haven't said anything about, Pinhead or any of this. It wasn't until I was actually cast that they let on what was in store.
And your reaction when they said you were going to be a Pinhead for the next year, and
right.
then another
2,
year, and then another year.
Yeah.
What was your reaction? What did you think?
I mean, cool, because, at the time I was sort of stuck in this, nurse number 3 to the left kind of gray area in Hollywood where you do not want to be. You want to have, but at the same time, they're not going to just hand you a sitcom because you went to, Northwestern Theater School. That's not how it works. So I'd done all the preparation, and yet I was sort of I needed a big break. And the fact is, a role like this that's so over the top. Well, I should say, you know, they obviously transformed me so that they weren't going to give like a big name actor at the time this role. Because, you know, if you pay for Kathy Bates, you want to see Kathy Bates' face. And so, you know, for me, they can get me for cheap at the time, right? So, you know, and then the point is, I think that's why they were looking for a no-name actor at the time. And I think I was pretty perfect, if I may say so, only because I'd done all this sort of like I said, big character stuff. Like if you're familiar at all with the Groundlings, it's a comedy theater in Los Angeles. A lot of big comedians come out of there, and I came out of there too. Small, but the point is, I've done the, you know, I have the character chops, and I think that's what they were really looking for. I think the shape of my nose, like, ultimately maybe sealed the deal, because they did bring in a bunch of other actresses who would work and to like do the whole photo manipulation business. But you know, the fact is they knew I could do this part because shoot, you Google me and on YouTube you find me doing every other character in the world. Like the, you know, Little Pinhead was the only one I really hadn't done.
I know you can't reveal too much about what happens, obviously, but does Pepper have a slightly bigger role at all as the series evolves?
Yeah.
She does. She might, because you've been pretty peripheral.
I know. Watching this show, I'm like, what are you doing to me? Like,
my wife and I were watching the last one this week, and she knew I was doing this with you, and she said, "Well, look, there's Pepper." And she goes, and we're like, "Yes, I think it was, but she's gone."
I mean, I'm not gonna. It's a little weird, like, because I know what happens, and I watch the show, and then I read the scripts, and I'm like, is it gonna be weird when Pepper like takes over the freak show? Not that that's what happens, but I'm just saying. It's so. I don't know. We'll see.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's one of the fun things about the show is that the characters who are peripheral at one point sort of come in and.
That's true.
So there are hints dropped that are absolutely.
Sure.
And actually, how many more? You're not done filming. How many more do you have to do?
I am done.
You are done filming.
My last day was Thursday, which is why I'm
You're free to do these.
barely. I mean, we did not know till the last minute. But they're still shooting. They have like 2 more weeks. Yep.
Are you done? You're done.
Yeah.
Okay.
What does that mean?
We do know you survived because the series is
yeah.
set before.
In fact, I'm just
it's
at
on.
Briarcliff up the hill, right over here, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Not that that's a spoiler. We all know this. It's a prequel to The Asylum.
Let's go over here. We were just kind of starting about how you got the role to begin with, the role you're most known for. How did this happen with you with Belton? What brought you to it? What made them buy you as the character?
Jesus. I think they're still trying to buy me. I think they weren't sold. You know, to be honest, they've been casting it for I think 2 months, and I got in last minute. They tested I think 10 people, and then so I went in on a Thursday, met Joss on that Thursday evening, and then was at Fox on Friday testing, and then was at Warner Brothers on Monday, and then I got the part on Tuesday. And I wasn't first choice, but when I went in to test at the WB on that Monday, it was me and this other guy, and I did a movie called Children of the Corn Part 3, and he was the star of that movie, and I was like basketball player number 3 to the left. And I'm like, damn it, they got a real actor, because I didn't, I hadn't done anything before. So
How old were you when you got that?
I was 26.
To 26 playing 16. Right?
50.
50. Sorry.
And so when I went into to the test at Warner Brothers, I had a general meeting there with the casting director in that particular office, which I didn't know, about a month and a half prior. So I walked into the room and I'm like, oh my God, I know this room, and it just felt very comfortable. And I just nailed the audition. I nailed it. And I'm in the middle of it going, Nick, you're nailing this. I'm like, Nick, shut up, you know? But no, you're doing a great job, Nick. Shut up, Nick, you know? They're laughing and blah, blah, blah. And then so I leave, and then so and this guy went in first. And so we were just kind of sitting there for like 5 minutes, and the head of casting comes in and says, "Nicholas, you can go home. We're going to torture him one more time." And I guess what had happened was I leapfrogged him. So they were giving, since he was number one choice, they were going to give him the opportunity to see if he can do what I had just done. He did not. So they gave me the part. Yeah, I had no right. I mean, if they, I know that Fox was offered the show, and they had a show called Kindred the Embrace at the time. So they said no, and the WB just kind of picked it up, it's like whatever. But if they believed in the show at all, there's no way they would have cast me. There's no way. I mean, as like, you know, number 2 on the call sheet. You know, I didn't know what a mark was. I didn't know.
Was the WB popular at that point, or was that one of the first shows that kind of brought it to?
That was, yeah. I mean, that kind of put it on.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Map-ish. I'm trying to think what was out at the. It's like 2 or 3 years in. So I'm not sure what was.
It's funny, I have the same voice talking to me, Naomi, killing this. And yet I was like, great, this is the audition I nail.
Yeah,
the audition I can't possibly get.
Yeah.
Because there's 50 little people, like, about to kick my ass in the back, you know. I was like, yeah. So, you know, but at the time I said, you know, this is a big casting office, they do Glee, they do like a dozen other things. I'll be some, you know, music teacher on Glee. And who knew, but, and actually
And I love you as the music teacher on Glee, by the way.
I was also not the first choice. There was a little person that they cast as my role.
What did you do to her?
I took her
Tasty
part.
young good.
I got her career, I guess. I'm sitting on her throat.
Yeah, right?
Well, one thing I just kind of want to explore with all of you, I think it's, the panel is ostensibly here, TV horror. Everybody here has acted in TV horror. It's changed over the years, obviously. But when you did it, it was very much associated with comedy, obviously. Tell me a bit about that. I mean, what the mix of comedy and horror in the Monsters?
Well, you know, we were based on the Universal Monsters, but they turned it into a comedy, a sitcom. But one of the things that I wasn't aware of at the time, I picked up on it later, was the social commentary. And, you know, it was the 60s, there was a lot of, you know, civil rights stuff going on, and you didn't want your people living next door to you, and the color of your skin, and hell, we were green, for God's sake, you know, so it was really interesting the way they kind of, they snuck in a lot of 60s stuff in there. And back then, censorship was a real big thing. Like, you know, Herman and Lily were like the first family, I believe, to sleep in the same bed. You know, and there was a lot of things going on like that, and the people living next door, and then don't judge a book by its cover. And we had a beautiful niece that thought we were fine, but everybody else, her dates thought we were weird.
Marilyn?
That was Marilyn. So they had this thing going on that, you know, we were weird, we thought she was weird, but she was beautiful. I mean, all this, the eye of the beholder situation, like the Twilight Zone.
Right.
You know, things of that nature.
Right.
But we had the Westmores. You know, what the neatest thing about the monster stuff was the fact that we had Perce Westmore, Bud Westmore, Mike Westmore was an apprentice at the time, was my makeup man, and he went on to win an Oscar for Mask, and his daughter now, Mackenzie Westmore, does Face Off. So they're really the bloodlines of the Westmore family, and being around that for a long time was really cool for me, because that's where I would hang out, would be the lab when they were creating all the headpieces and all the stuff for other things.
And do you remember what kind of direction you got from the director about the mix of comedy and horror? Did they talk about that at all? Did you understand it was essentially a comic series, or?
Yeah. I would know that Monday morning when we read the scripts, and we would all be laughing about the upcoming episode. But it was interesting. We had like 5 different directors that would rotate through, so every episode was kind of new and fresh because we would have a different director and the way he was seeing it. And as a kid actor, it was really just my job to do what they told me to do. And luckily for me, most of the time, my instincts were pretty sound, and I usually did what they wanted.
Did the Monsters come after the Addams Family or before?
Simultaneously.
It was simultaneously. What did you think of the Addams Family? Was there a rivalry between you two?
You know, it's funny because I think it's the only time in television where it's actually been, where each other's existence benefited each other. I mean, as a friendly rival, we were on Thursday, they were on Friday. We were on Thursday, they were on Friday, but I mean, we both benefited from each other's existence. Whether you like the Addams Family or whether you like the Munsters, you watched them both. And that was the good thing.
Like Beverly Hillbillies and Green Acres.
Or the Real McCoys.
It's true. No, I'm how old are you? You're what?
I'm 61.
61. I'm 3 years younger than you are, so I mean, I grew up kind of with that as well. So I have that those images of TV mornings and evenings watching many of these sitcoms. Nick, how about you in the horror comedy mix? Buffy, how did you view that in terms of the way that went down?
Joss has a particular way of writing where he likes to kind of take you to an edge and then not. He never wants you to kind of fall off that edge. Like when the girls had to cry, he never wanted to see the girl. He never wanted to see tears. He wanted to see tears welling, but not falling. So, which is crazy, because once they start, they start. But my character was pretty much just all comedy in it. He was just kind of like the one-liner guy. So it was easy for me. There was no reading between the lines. I had jokes and I said them. I was scared shitless.
Did you?
The character.
Yes, of course. When you looked at the whole arc of the show itself, did you kind of see your place in the show pretty clearly, or?
Yeah, I think it was episode 2 or 3, but the line that defined the way I played Xander was he had a line that said, "I laugh in the face of danger, and then I hide until it goes away." So that was kind of that was a line that kind of based my character.
Kind of a through line for you.
Yep.
And Naomi, the horror in American Horror Story, there's camp in there, certainly, to a degree, but primarily it's a pretty grisly, frightening experience to watch that.
Yeah, it's again odd because I'm not, up until this, I hadn't done, I think this was the first real dramatic audition I'd ever had. I think I'm the comedy, the comic relief. In fact, Ryan Murphy said that, we need a little levity, a little name game here and there. And in fact, I've even run into, directors and whatnot, and I'm like, oh, you're hilarious in this episode. Just wait till you see it. I'm like, hilarious. This isn't a comedy. Thank you. But that's actually my theory as to maybe why you see me, or they use me as sparingly as they do, because I do change up the tone. There's a ton of hilarious lines I've had that they've cut. And I know, when I'm delivering the baby, and I pop out from between the legs, and I say, she's crowning, right? And then I say, when I crowned, I shot out like a bullet. Which is hilarious. And when you look at the top of my, of course I did. Arrow from the neck. But, stuff like that is just
too funny.
Exactly. No, every single take, the whole crew just busted up. And so, yeah. That said, when I don't want to say that. Well, okay, so we've already revealed that there's more of me later.
Right, we know that.
And when I read that at first, I was like, can I even do this? I know I can, but it's been a while. You know what I mean? It's been a while since I was in acting class. I've been in, improv and, sketch comedy world much more recently. So I'm much more comfortable saying, no, but not what you're about to see.
How many more episodes are there?
I think this week was the 8th, yeah. So there's 13 total, so there's 5 more.
5 to go. Okay. So, and you're not on hiatus or anything for the holidays, are you?
Yes.
Oh, you are.
Their intention is to wrap by Christmas. That may not even happen.
Oh, really?
If they don't get to it, not that they're hanging out, but you guys are gonna lap us. We're gonna be doing it live. It's gonna be like Peter Pan. If we don't, we are working 16-hour days, 6 days a week. It's insane. But the show, as you see, it's so carefully crafted. It takes time, and it's not like there's anything that can be done quickly. You can't just slap on the pepper face. It takes 3 hours. Period.
Is it getting quicker to do the
A
makeup?
little bit, yeah. When they first did tests, it was 6 hours with 2 guys. Now it's 3 hours with 1.
Do you just, and actually what you too, did you just kind of accept that this is part of the job, is sitting still to be made up?
Yeah.
It's boring, it's necessary.
I get to go to work, sit back, close my eyes, maybe order breakfast, right?
Can you
Take a nap.
Can you zen out? Can you
Oh,
meditate?
yeah.
Okay,
I'm
good.
half asleep and I wake up and I'm
Fred used to
proper.
sleep.
Right.
Fred used to sleep doing his makeup. He was done at 6 in the morning. He'd wake up at 8. He'd be done.
I've heard stories of Paris Hilton like going to photo shoots and sleeping for her makeup, but like literally going, I'm gonna be over here, and whenever you're done, like she'll like sleep on the floor. I've heard that.
She probably had to sleep off the drugs.
Yes.
That's true.
Pull her out of her coma.
Right, exactly. One thing, and I'll open it up to the floor in a second, get your questions too, but I guess one thing I wanted to ask too, and Naomi and I talked about this a little bit prior to this, but for all of you, the mood on the set. Sometimes, my understanding anyway, if we're talking to various actors and being on a few sets, is that sometimes the more difficult, the more, if you will, grim, serious the show is, the lighter the mood is between the actors, because it kind of has to be, because they're dealing with pretty heavy stuff. Just throw that open to all of you guys. What was the mood on, Dick, want to start? What was the mood on your set?
It was, very much with Naomi. It was 16, 17 hours. And there wasn't a lot of joking because we, like our line producer, Garrett, was just, one time, Charisma, who played Cordelia, it was her birthday and Josh got her a cake and they sang happy birthday to her on set. And Garrett's like, no! Shut the fuck up and start working. And Josh was like, what are you doing, dude? It's like, we gotta make our day, you know? So it was very much, people say, well, there were practical jokes. Like, no, we were always behind. You know, we were like shooting 3 or 4 units at a time. So, yeah, it was just a lot of, you couldn't be seen having a good time otherwise.
No good time.
That meant that you weren't working, yeah.
No, when they announced Thursday night, like, that's a picture up on Pepper, and they all stopped for all of 3 seconds to clap, I was like the clump, because I couldn't believe, like, people stopped working for me. It was, yeah. It's, I mean, you'd think that it would be this, like, ooh, spooky set. And no, we're just making TV.
I mean, the scariest one that I had was this episode called Hush, and there are these guys called The Gentlemen, and that was the only time I was like, fuck. This is, because they were all on this rig too, and this kind of floating and just doing this stuff, and I'm like, this is, like, I'm seeing the rig. I know actually one of the actors, I've known him for years. And I'm like, if this is scaring me right now, this is going to be kind of crazy on TV. So yeah, but typically it's like, you know, all the demons and whatever that were being made up, you know, there's 6-7 hours of makeup. I'd be having cigarettes with them, you know, like half demon, half not, you know, having a conversation. So I was never scared of anything, you know.
How about when you watch the actual broadcast, if you did, I guess I'm assuming you did. I mean, were you able to detach yourself from your character and look at it and go, holy shit, that's really good?
I mean,
or do you kind of go,
we would gather, like, we still gather. I won't be there this week, but Wednesday we go to this clothing optional country club in New Orleans and watch. And
wait, what?
Yeah, wait, what?
What does that even mean? I mean, I know what it means, but what? Like, what? Do people show up optionally?
There's the option to not wear clothes.
And can you golf too?
No, it is just a pool.
Just a pool, okay.
And it's like a jacuzzi. And a bar.
Did you wear clothes? Did you show up with clothes?
I went once without.
Yeah.
I did, and I even bullied Meep into getting naked too. Well, because I went with Matt, little, you know, illustrated Paul, Steele, okay, and Amazon Eve. She's transgender. I was like, I gotta see her. And little Meep, rest in peace. Yeah, and so Matt's a total exhibitionist. Like, he does burlesque. Like, the things I've seen more of him than ever any boyfriend I've ever had. Anyway, yeah, we went, but we did go once, and Meep showed up in a bathing suit. I was like, what are you doing? Like, I am standing here naked. Like, take off your clothes. And he did, and it was the best day of his life. He'll tell you himself. But anyway, so yeah, on Wednesdays we usually gather there. At this point, yeah, I wear clothes, because it's, you know, it's widely known we're there, and so people go there to see us, like to see us, see ourselves, and it's a little awkward because, yeah, that's part of the entertainment. Is they're not even watching the show; they're watching us. Like,
Yeah,
right, sure.
And so I feel a little bit like on stage, and of course they're throwing free drinks at us, which I'm not complaining about, but again, like it's a lot.
It's a tough life.
It's a really tough life.
They do that in Vegas too, the free drinks, but then they have more to gain if you
Yeah.
get drunk.
Recently, they've asked us to start live tweeting, and I definitely can't do that in public with free drinks and no phone. So, well, yeah.
Didn't you
No,
lose
I
your
mean, I want to
phone,
sound
Noah?
coherent. Like, if there's 30,000 people like reading what I'm writing, I'm not gonna do it naked and drunk, right?
That's a great
Yeah,
line,
no,
that's a good
When
pull
I
quote.
tweet, you can imagine I'm at least dressed.
Yes.
I'm sitting here naked and drunk, and then, well, that's a
Right.
Well, there are
characters.
pictures going out, so they know that
There you go.
There goes in. There should be some sort of drunk block on tweeting, shouldn't there? Some sort of app you can do.
Yeah.
Just sort of- like a breathalyzer test.
Right.
Nope,
Don't
can't.
drink and tweet.
No, Butch is back. I'll finish this part with Butch just on the set.
Oh,
By
child labor
rounding up.
laws, that was great for me.
Child labor laws.
I had to go home after 8 hours. And we only filmed 3 days a week, so, for my show, we did 39 episodes, but Monday we would read, Tuesday we'd rehearse, and then Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday would be makeup days, so I had it pretty easy, actually, so. But we had a lot of guests on the show, a lot of people came through to visit us,
Who were some of the famous ones?
the Beatles, for one.
The Beatles?
Beatles? I wasn't at work
The
that day.
Beatles?
I wasn't at work.
Were they
They
on the
weren't
show
on
or
the
they
show, they
just
came to
visited?
visit. Yeah, they came to visit. I wasn't working that day, I was all bummed. But I remember meeting Wally Schirra, that was a big thing to me. He was an astronaut, and that was very cool. And we had a lot of, the tour had just started at Universal, it was the first year of the tour. So then the interesting thing is they would stop production and let the tour come through. The tour took precedence over our shooting schedule because it was a moneymaker for the studio, and they were grooming it. So we hated that. But all in all, it was a really fun show. It was lighthearted. We had a lot of great comedic people come through. It was definitely a comedy. That Fred and Al would torture Yvonne DiCarlo mercilessly. They would play practical jokes on her. That was pretty much the levity factor. Other than that, I'd go home early and they would work late.
All right, I gotta ask this. Yvonne was a very hot actress.
Big movie star.
Right, physically I was saying, but also.
And
big
she was
movie
also
star.
physically hot.
You were her son.
Yes.
Were you at all attracted to her? Were you at all attracted to her?
Yeah. And we had Hot Marilyn on the show too.
You had Hot Marilyn, too.
We had good-looking women, no doubt.
Did you have to keep, I'm the son, remember, I'm the son, I'm not attracted to
I
you.
actually had Beverly Owen took me, what I like to say was my first date. She came down to pick me up and drove me all the way to Grauman's Chinese Theater to go see Mary Poppins. I was 11 years old. I was like a kid in heaven. It was like set the bar very high for dating.
Well, look, let's open it up out there. You guys must have some stuff. Who wants to fire away?